The White House is urging some states this morning to drop strict new Ebola quarantines. New Jersey, New York, Florida, and Illinois are telling medical workers returning from West Africa to stay isolated for 21 days. Health officials can call that move ineffective.
Now, a nurse in New Jersey has become the face of opposition to those rules. Casey Hickox is sitting in an isolation tent this morning at Newark's University Hospital. She has no symptoms of Ebola, but she's been ordered to stay quarantined since she returned from Sierra Leone on Friday.
Hickox says the policy violates her basic human rights. Her lawyers are preparing a federal lawsuit. CBS News legal expert Rikki Klieman is with us. She is married to New York Police Commissioner Bill Bratton. Rikki, good morning.
Good morning.
All the times you've been here, this is the first time we've ever said that.
And I'm not sure what Bill Bratton has to do with this issue.
I'm not
because
either. But he's a good husband.
He is a good husband. And it is the Health and Hospital Police, by the way, who will be dealing with these questions of Ebola and enforcing quarantines. So let's talk about quarantine versus isolation. In isolation, what you do is you have a person who is ill, a person who has the epidemic Ebola. That person is isolated. Then we have the issue of quarantine. What quarantine means is the states have the right, under their basic public safety policies, that they can take someone who does not yet have the symptoms, but has been exposed, and they can isolate that person while that person potentially could develop the symptoms. Here we know Ebola means 21 days.
But what happens if a person says, you know, I have no symptoms, I've been tested, I don't want to be quarantined? A, can you refuse? And what is the penalty? Or is there a penalty?
Well, if you refuse, I guarantee you that the police powers, not my husband's powers, the state's police powers, can come into effect, and you are going to be quarantined. Quarantine is not about voluntary compliance. Quarantine is really the means of the state. Now, if you say I'm going to refuse, what you need to do is you need to hire a lawyer, or a lawyer will come and represent you. In this case, as in Nurse Hickox, Norman Siegel, formerly with the NYCLU, has come to represent her and allow her to be a test case. It's important that we have a test case here to see if the states are using, quote unquote, the least restrictive means necessary.
Right. Their point is this is overly broad.
Right. That's exactly what Mr. Siegel is saying. This is overly broad in New Jersey. And you know now we have a different policy in New York than we do in New Jersey. But ultimately what you've got here is the courts have to do a balance. The courts have to look at this individual state's right that allows the state, rather than the federal government, to quarantine people because public health and safety should not be sacrificed for an individual's rights. But when they do this balance, we have to do that the person has been exposed, which she has, that secondly, she's put into a safe, habitable environment. Here he's going to say, Norman Siegel's going to say, this is way more than a safe, habitable environment.
I mean, the interesting point, as Dr. LaPook made earlier, no one has gotten Ebola from casual contact yet. They've only got it, the healthcare workers have gotten it while they were treating a patient with Ebola. We just showed the cell. It's 15 by 20. There's a portable toilet and no shower for her.
Well,
and they're going to keep her. I mean, she calls it Ebola jail for more than 20 days. Is that humane?
Well, the question may not be whether or not it's humane. The question may be this balance.
Well,
and what they're going to say is that this is too restrictive. The courts may disagree.
So any now healthcare worker who flies back into New Jersey, or even Ambassador Samantha Power, they're going to quarantine them in a tent like this?
Not necessarily, because ultimately we have to remember that Nurse Hickox is in the unfortunate position of being the first one back. Ultimately, these policies will morph, and they will try to make it more habitable.
Really interesting, Rikki. Thank you so much.
We'll be back in the courthouses this week.
We'll see you later this week.
We'll see you later.
Mrs. Bratton. Yeah, we'll see you.